Now on CoastTV News.
Watchful eyes. Rehoboth Beach is stepping up security. There's new live stream cameras in key spots around town. We'll tell you where they are and how city officials say they'll be used. Slower streets. South Bethany considers cutting speed limits. That could change summer traffic.
I'm tracking a very strong storm for this weekend. I'll give you the latest on when it's going to arrive.
This is CoastTV News at 11.
Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us. I'm Christina DeVerbertis. New tonight, New York Attorney General Letitia James, a Democrat who has clashed with President Donald Trump, was indicted today by a federal grand jury in Virginia. James was charged with 1 count of bank fraud and 1 count of false statements to a financial institution. As NBC's Kelly O'Donnell reports, this comes after Trump publicly called for his Justice Department to bring charges against her.
Another of President Trump's self-described political enemies has been indicted. This time, New York Attorney General, Democrat Letitia James. James has been indicted in the Eastern District of Virginia on 2 counts that relate to bank fraud. And this concerns a mortgage that she obtained on a home she purchased in Norfolk, Virginia in 2020. This is a home that has been used as a rental property for her niece. But one of the documents included in the package to obtain the loan described it as a primary residence and therefore getting a better, lower mortgage rate. That as an advantage, and that is considered defrauding the bank. Letitia James has come out and called this the weaponization of the Justice Department. President Trump has publicly talked about Letitia James many times, wanting the Justice Department to go after her, in part because she brought a civil case in New York against the Trump Organization for fraud. Letitia James' attorney says this is something they will fight vigorously, and it is a case that will affect her life, but it has a much wider implication about how the Justice Department works under President Trump, and especially when his own political enemies, as he describes them, are caught in the process. I'm Kelly O'Donnell in Washington.
Now to Rehoboth Beach, where the city just recently installed fixed live stream cameras in key public locations. Those locations include at the roundabout on Rehoboth Avenue and several intersections on Rehoboth Avenue. City officials tell us the live stream cameras are not always rolling, and they say they'll be used only to review incidents after approval from Delaware State Police. Some people we spoke with in Rehoboth tonight say they think it's a step forward for public safety in the city.
I think they're great for public safety. So, more that they can put in as long as you've got controls around it and the way that the way the images are controlled and deleted after a certain period of time, I don't have a problem with them.
And so the city has 12 cameras in total. 4 of them are license plate readers and 8 of them are live stream cameras. New tonight, some changes for the Endless Summer Cruising event in Ocean City this weekend. Organizers say they're moving all of Sunday's events to Saturday due to expected bad weather. Now the grand finale awards are set for 4:30 p.m. Saturday at the inlet. And by the way, according to Ocean City Police, a special event zone is in effect for this event, meaning lower speed limits, also higher fines for traffic violations. So if you're heading to the Endless Summer Cruising event, you might want to slow your roll. Now we're looking live outside into Lewis, and our First Alert Chief Meteorologist Paul Williams joins us now with a check on the forecast. Paul, tell us about this expected bad weather.
Yeah, it's going to be happening after the weekend, so if you've got to deal with bad weather, why not wait until the weekend is almost over, because that's the timing that we're talking about. In Milford, we are expecting for the temperatures to stay in the 50s and fall into the lower 50s, and a bit of a frosty situation, patchy frost actually for tomorrow morning. Kind of depends on where you are, but more for the farther inland you are, the better your chances of frost. But closer to the water, you're dealing with gusty winds. Now, we do have a coastal flood watch in effect, but also we have the storm watch that kicks in. And this is actually for Sunday going in Monday, maybe a little bit of Saturday, because this is basically, we're talking about a storm over the water. We'd be having a concern for severe storms, with the classic warning. But we have that watch that goes from Ocean City down towards Chincoteague. And then we have the storm watch that's active for the entire coast. Now, we also have, as we dig in a little bit deeper, Ocean City, West Ocean City, we have beach hazard statement, watching out for beach erosion coming up in the next 24 hours or so. Coming up, we'll talk in more detail about that storm we're expecting after the weekend, Christina.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Well, one Sussex County beach town could be slowing things down. The South Bethany Safety Committee asking the town council to drop speed limits on all town streets to 15 miles per hour. Most neighborhood roads now have speed limits between 20 and 25 miles per hour. Supporters say a lower speed limit makes narrow canal streets safer for people walking and cycling, especially during the summer. But critics worry it will add to weekend backups.
I guess traffic, and traffic is really a mess. And we learned to don't go out on a weekend, July and August, and if it's raining, forget it.
The Bicycle and Pedestrian Safety Committee says the change could cut close calls on narrow streets. If this is approved, new signs and enforcement would follow. But for now, the South Bethany Council plans to weigh the proposal and public feedback before any vote. For people in the Lewis area, on your screen now is where DelDOT says they will be closing lanes on Robinsonville Road between Webb's Landing Road and Harts Road. The department says the milling and paving operations will start October 20th, and they're expected to continue until November 7th. Drivers can expect minor delays during the work hours of 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Well, many viewers might remember Iron Hill Brewery and Restaurant closing its doors on September 25th, and employees that we spoke with say they were not given notice ahead of time. Some employees tell us they found out just 3 hours before their shift. And we now know Iron Hill officially filed for bankruptcy on October 4th. Documents show the company was $20 million in debt. CoastTV's Brandon Ferguson spoke to former employees who say they did expect some cutbacks, but not every store in the country closing.
All Iron Hill Brewery locations closed, from Delaware, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey to South Carolina and Georgia. Daniel Hazard, who worked at the Rehoboth Beach location for a year before its closure, was ready for his shift the same day it closed.
3 hours before open of business. Everyone was really shocked and disappointed.
That short notice that employees are claiming is the problem, according to Pennsylvania law firm Salter Shelkoff. The law firm is looking into Iron Hill potentially violating the WARN Act, or the Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification. The act says it requires most employers with 100 or more employees to provide 60 days advance written notice before closing or mass layoffs. The law firm is asking former employees to reach out to them.
I actually have already submitted my interest in that.
If a violation is found, former workers could be owed up to 2 months of back pay and benefits, according to the law firm's website. Iron Hill Brewery and Restaurant was owned by A&M Capital, a private equity firm that declined to comment on the closures or the class action investigation. For now, workers we spoke with are hoping for answers and accountability.
That was Brandon Ferguson reporting, and it is important to note Iron Hill has filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. That means the company may no longer be required to pay certain debts, and in many cases, creditors are not allowed to try and collect from them. And so in response to the closure of all Iron Hill Brewery locations, Pennsylvania Attorney General Dave Sunday is urging anyone in Pennsylvania with unused gift cards to dispute the charge with their credit card company and consider filing a complaint with the Pennsylvania Bureau of Consumer Protection. Back in 2024, Iron Hill in Buckhead, Georgia, settled a federal discrimination lawsuit. That's according to the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. The EEOC suit alleged the company fired an African-American sous chef in training because of his race and for reporting discrimination against women and Hispanic employees. Iron Hill agreed to pay $115,000 and provide nationwide training, post workplace rights, and implement an anti-retaliation policy. All this brings us to our CoastTV poll tonight because we want to know how you think workers should be notified when their workplace shuts down. Let's look at the results now. 21% think a 60-day warning. 60% say an in-person meeting. A few people think written notice or any fair way. And we want to know what you think, so you can head over to coasttv.com or use our mobile app to vote. Plus, we are just getting started tonight. Still more news ahead, like secret strength, how plasma donations gave one young man a second chance at life, and how you can help others just like him. But first, Hornets honoring history. Members from the 1985 MEAC champion Delaware State University football team are holding a reunion on Friday. That's this week's Coastal Connections. Up next.
Bay forecast, we're looking for Friday, sunshine, cloudy on Saturday, and the rain arrives on Sunday going into Monday. And we're going to talk about that Sunday-Monday thing in about 60 seconds.
One of the greatest football seasons in Delaware State University history took place 40 years ago. And in this week's Coastal Connections, on the eve of the reunion of this team, we look at how a coach with strong ties in Lewis was able to bring together a group of men, change their lives, and establish lifelong friendships and memories.
As you look at Bill Colick, their first-year head coach.
And what a first season it was in 1985. When it concluded, Delaware State had their first conference championship in 26 years. Colick was named MEAC Coach of the Year. However, for the former Cape Henlopen High School student, teacher, and coach, the season could have played out in Harrisonburg, Virginia, and not in Dover. Following the 1984 campaign, the Hornets head coach Joe Przicki took the job at James Madison.
You were the defensive.
Colick was his defensive coordinator at the time.
They really wanted to take all of us with him, and it sounded exciting. However, I was married, and my wife was expecting with our second child, and had worked at BB for a while, and she said to me one day, you know, this whole football thing can be fleeting.
Soon after he told Przicki no, he told Delaware State yes to taking the role as the Hornets head coach.
I was excited because Coach was my defensive coordinator when I was at Cape Henlopen High School. So, you know, when we found out that Coach was going to be the head coach, I mean, I was just ready and just ready to go.
Number 98 for the Hornets, Tim Gray, was a standout player at Cape Henlopen. With Colick as his assistant coach, he helped lead the Vikings to the 1979 state championship, and that connection helped in the recruiting process.
I was reluctant because I had my mind set on going into the Army, active duty. And, you know, Coach in his way of saying, he said, you know, Timmy Gray, you know, you'll be the first in your family to go to college. First generation.
After a loss in their 8th game, the Hornets traveled to Baton Rouge for a nationally televised matchup with traditional, historically black college and university power, Southern.
It's just totally different. I mean, the way we did the walkthrough, the way there's media everywhere, and you know what I mean? It's just different, you know, which also meant that we were important because we were here.
We just went down there and we just basically destroyed them. You know, and you know, Southern, you know, their band was again well known. So probably after the third quarter, they was playing for us and not them.
As the game comes to an end, the final score 46-8.
The Hornets would finish the regular season with a 9-2 record, ranked 12th in the nation, champions of the MEAC, and awaiting the announcement of a spot in the Division I AA playoffs. An announcement that never came.
You do everything you're asked to do. You show up early, you show up on time, you're prepared, you do what you're supposed to do, and it's almost like, okay, so where are the football gods and tell us, okay, you guys are in. And it just didn't work that way. So it took a while for us to be able to let that go and really get back and enjoy and embrace the MEAC championship.
What's going on? But embrace it they have over the years, and now, on this milestone anniversary, they will head to Dover for a reunion.
Whenever you get the chance to see them, you know, you cherish that moment. You know, 40 years, I mean, whew, that's a minute. 40 years, and like I said, you know, we all been blessed, and hopefully God will see us through it, that, you know, we get to see each other on the 10th.
10 days into October to remember a time 40 years ago.
As the game comes to an end.
When this group made history and formed an everlasting bond. For Coastal Connections, I'm Matt Pensick.
Well, the additional moisture in the atmosphere is indicative of the moisture that's going to gain momentum going into this weekend. And this weekend, we're watching out for 50-mile-an-hour winds and a little rain on top of that. So We're looking at some yellow, maybe even a red alert day. I hate to say that out loud on purpose early, but just pump the brakes on your plans outside on Sunday and Monday is all I'm trying to say, okay? Our Rehoboth Beach camera, though, right now, although it's a little bit misty right now, we're at 60 degrees, and we'll drop back to 53 with increasing cloud cover for the night. Now, we are already at 51 in Milton and Georgetown right now, but we're at 45 chilly degrees in Harrington, Milford, and Bridgeville. Those three that I just mentioned, along with Redden, you're likely to deal with some frost waking up tomorrow morning because you guys are dropping like a stone off the edge of a cliff as far as your temps are concerned. We're between 5 to 7 degrees below where we were just 24 hours ago, so we are much cooler. Now, keeping a close eye on the rain gauge for this month, we're about a ½ inch shy of our normal rainfall total for this month, but for the entire year, we're about 3 inches beyond our normal rainfall total. So we're not behind from a year-long standpoint, but for the month, yeah, we're a little behind the pace. Now, we take a look at our expectations right now. We have a coastal flood watch in effect for all inland areas. That's tied into the high tide. Then we have the beach hazard statement watching out for beach erosion in Ocean City, West Ocean City, down towards Chincoteague. That's in effect until Friday evening. Now, in addition to that, we have the storm watch. This is a little different. This is like a severe thunderstorm watch, but over the water. I guess that's the easiest way for me to explain it to you. So nothing's happening yet, but it's preparing us for something to happen. All right, that'll be over the weekend. Gale wind watch, watching out for 35-mile-per-hour winds over on the other side of the bay. And really, we look at cold air. To our north, we have a frost advisory, and then north of that, we have a freeze warning in effect. So, wow, that's cold, right? But colder than what we've been dealing with. So partly cloudy skies for tonight. Tomorrow, we're going to have temperatures in the 60s with winds out of the east. Since it's not coming out of the north, it's a little better. But we're looking for high risk of flooding for Rehoboth to Ocean City, and the same area watching for 50 to possibly 60-mile-per-hour winds. Take a look at our model right now. This model is indicating 54-mile-per-hour winds coming out of the north for Monday. Now, this is Monday. Sunday going into Monday, and then Monday morning, 5:30, man, everybody's in the mix with crazy wind that's going to kick in for us. And this is a look at what's happening with that system. It's going to swirl around and then double back over us and possibly drop even a little more rain our way. And with that being the case, we're bracing for about 2 to 4 inches of rain. But when we run the model, the latest model run, is indicating that we're looking at possibly 2.5 inches of rain, probably a little bit more than that towards Fenwick Island and Bethany Beach. Finally, here's a look at the extended forecast.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Well, half a dozen former surgeons general appointed by both Republican and Democratic presidents have issued an unprecedented warning. In a Washington Post op-ed Tuesday, they said simply, quote, "We are compelled to speak with one voice to say that the actions of Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. are endangering the health of the nation." The group says that science and expertise have taken a back seat to ideology and misinformation. And they ended the letter by saying Secretary Kennedy is entitled to his views, but not to put people's health at risk. Meanwhile, most Americans do not approve of the way Health and Human Services Secretary RFK Jr. is running the nation's health agencies. According to a new KFF poll, nearly 6 in 10 adults in the U.S. say they disapprove of RFK Jr.'s overall job performance. There is division even within Kennedy's signature Make America Healthy Again movement, which is generally focused on food, the environment, and pharmaceuticals, especially vaccines. Overall, about 4 in 10 adults say they consider themselves supporters of that movement, according to the survey. Within the movement, about 30% say they disapprove of the way Kennedy is handling his role as HHS Secretary. Well, it is International Plasma Awareness Week, a time to put a spotlight on the importance of life-saving plasma donations. Experts say that many blood donors may not know much about giving plasma, but it is a critical part of helping people with certain medical disorders. It's also used in emergencies. And in tonight's Health Minute, Mandy Gaither has more on how plasma-derived therapy helps sustain life.
When he started elementary school, Jana Matthews says her son kept getting a cold that would always end in pneumonia, antibiotics, hospitalizations, even the removal of his adenoids didn't help.
It was devastating, and there was that mom instinct in my belly that something else was wrong.
At 7 years old, Matthews says her son was diagnosed with common variable immune deficiency, or CVID. His body doesn't produce enough antibodies to fight infection. She says doctors treated him with human plasma.
When I tell you it was night and day, within 24 hours, he was a normal 7-year-old boy running around the house, wrestling with his brother and our dog. And it was like a plant that finally got sunlight and water.
These therapies depend on donations. Giving plasma is different from donating whole blood. The Plasma Protein Therapeutics Association says it's collected through a machine that separates the plasma from a healthy donor's blood. The remaining blood components are then returned to the donor.
The process takes about an hour and has about the same side effects as general blood donation. You might feel a little dizzy, maybe a little fatigue the day after.
Now, at age 23, Matthew's son has received plasma every week since his diagnosis.
My son is now thriving and living amongst the rest of us and achieving as an adult, and it just seems incredible.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Coming up in sports tonight, we head to the pitch, where tonight Berlin-based Worcester Prep traveled to take on Holly Grove Christian in boys soccer. And coming up, the Olympic countdown. The clock is ticking in Milan as Italy gets ready to make Winter Games history. We'll show you the preps underway and what's new this year.
This is Coast TV News at 11.
College student athletes and staff could soon be allowed to bet on professional sports. This week, that proposal was adopted by the National Collegiate Athletic Association's Division I committee. The rule change must be approved by all 3 NCAA divisions. At the end of October, Divisions 2 and 3 are expected to consider the same proposal. If approved, the new rule change would go into effect November 1st. The NCAA's current policy that prohibits betting on college sports remains in place. And the Division I committee said the rule change is not an endorsement of sports betting. Sticking with sports, there's only 120 days left to the Milan Cortina Olympics that start in February. And as NBC's Claudio Lavanja reports from Milan, game organizers say they are ready.
The clock is ticking to the Milan Cortina Winter Olympics. Literally, there's a countdown clock here in the center of Milan that says 120 days to February the 6th, that is the day of the opening ceremony. Now, this is the 3rd time Italy hosts the Winter Olympics, but it's a first for the city of Milan, which is famous for fashion, design, some iconic buildings like the Duomo Cathedral here, but not for winter sports because it rarely snows here. And that's why this will be the first Winter Olympics, which will be co-hosted by 2 cities, Milan and Cortina and the surrounding area, which is up on the mountains about a 4.5-hour drive from here, making this one of the most, if not the most, geographically widespread Winter Olympics of all time. This is not the only first for these Winter Olympics. There's also a new sport that is sky mountaineering. If you don't know what that is, don't worry. Neither did I. Well, that is a sport where athletes climb a mountain with the skis on their back and then they ski downhill. It was also an uphill struggle for organizers to make sure everything is ready in time for February, but now they say, siamo pronti. That's Italian for, we are ready. Claudio Lavanga, NBC News, Milan.
Get ready for another week in the NFL regular season. We have your Sunday night football right here on Coast TV, and this week you can catch the Detroit Lions and the Kansas City Chiefs. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. and stay right here for Coast TV News following the game.
The Delmarva Sports Network from the Wawa Studios.
On the pitch, Worcester Prep boys soccer matched up with Holly Grove Christian earlier tonight. Holly Grove was the home team with hopes to pick up its 5th win in 6 tries. Meanwhile, the Mallards traveled from Berlin with a 2-1 record over their last 3. We start with a lot of defense. Don't worry, we're not going to bore you, so we're going to go straight to a little bit of the offensive after we kind of set the scene. We're ready to roll, and A little bit of a throw-in from the side from Jack Adkins. Max Carpenter with the double tap, and he gets it by Jack Ellis. This was in the 35th minute, and his team going up 1-0. But then finally, the Eagles, in the second half, they'd score one of their own. Parker Benton drills one from point-blank range off the rebound, and it's 1-1 in the 67th minute. They needed it. Just 3 minutes later, the Eagles are starting to roll, and they lead with the ball. It rolls perfectly to a wide-open Bradley Chatham there, drilling it from close range and making it 2-1 Eagles. Time winding down, trying to put the finishing touches in on this one. Look at this run up the pitch from Jeremiah Dagan. He's going to outrun the entire back line as he gains control, beats the goalie, and scores pretty much at the death. Final score 3-1. Holly Grove Christian improving to 8-3 on the year.
Now here's a live look into Milford. One more check on your forecast is coming up after the break. Just a quick reminder that each Friday you can cheer up with a weekly dose of local good news from Coast TV. We have features, we have cool things to do every weekend, and more, and you can sign up for free. Just go to coasttv.com/sign up.
In Rehoboth Beach, we're at 60 degrees right now, and we'll drop down to 53 degrees by 3 o'clock with partly cloudy skies. Coastal flood watch is still in effect, watching out for the possibility of some inundation due to the high tide. And then a storm watch is active along the coast, watching out for very blustery conditions that'll last going into Monday. We also have concerns about deteriorating beach conditions along the coastal region. Here's your look at your winner, Jennifer Hughes of Millsboro. And keep up with your forecast by calling our weather line. And here's a look at your 10-day forecast.
Thank you again, Paul, and thanks to you for joining us for Coast TV News at 11. You can find more news and weather on our Coast TV News app. The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon's up next. And we'll see you tomorrow for Coast TV News at 5 a.m. Have a great night.